Welcome back to my hot kitchen. I'm Wendy, and I'm here to show you how to turn up the heat in your kitchen with a dynamite dinner for two. On tonight's menu is blue cheese, pear and walnut stuffed pork chops, garlic lovers pilaf on the side, a little sauteed butternut squash and mushrooms to round it all out, and for dessert, your own personal Brandied pear blue cheesecakes. So let's get started on those pork chops first. You're gonna wanna marinate them. Use about a ½ ounce of cider vinegar, about a tablespoon or a nice little dollop, whatever you want to do there, of Dijon mustard, and of course some Worcestershire sauce to add that rich flavor. And then dab them and smear all the good stuff around. Flip them over. Give them a little more stabbing. Make sure that flavor finds its way all the way inside the meat. Flip it back over to grab onto that stuff that's layered on the bottom now. And then just reach in there because you'll want to make sure that you're working with butterflied pork chops. You can do this yourself or you can ask your butcher to do it for you. But whatever you use, however you get it done, just make sure the marinade has a chance to get inside the butterflied part of the pork chop too. And then after handling raw meats, you always want to wash your hands. And then the chops just need to go back into the fridge to marinate until you're ready to stuff them. And then it's time to focus on dessert. So take about a ½ cup of chopped walnuts, put them in a bag, and grind them down using a rolling pin. The walnuts are going to form the crust of the blue cheesecakes. Now there's lots of ways that you can break down walnuts. You can use a food processor or mortar and pestle, or you can go super low tech with a bag and rolling pin. And then once you have it ground down to a nice little meal, you just want to add it to a mixing bowl and mix it with some brown sugar, about 2 tablespoons worth. And this is going to form a lovely little crust. Now most crusts to a cheesecake have a lot of butter and flour in them, but this is a nice way to introduce a gluten-free alternative if that's what you're looking for, or just a fun way to use ingredients that you're already going to have on hand for the rest of the recipe. Now take your crumb mixture and divide it evenly between 2 nice little glass bowls. And then press it into shape. All of the good fats present in the walnuts are going to work just like butter. It's going to harden up beautifully. It's going to work with the brown sugar and make a nice firm little crust. Once you have it in there, just gently tap it to kind of even it out on the sides. Kind of bring that crust down to the same level around the bowl. And then move on to the other one. Now when planning out recipes to share with you, I always try to think of how you can use ingredients from one recipe to another so that you don't have to spend an arm and a leg at the grocery store. And I think this is a fantastic way to use the walnuts that you're going to need to stuff the pork chops. Plus the walnuts are a natural pairing to blue cheese, so it's going to be extra special delicious. Now put these guys in the oven. I've got the oven preset to 350 degrees, so I'm going to give them a little head start in baking, about 10 minutes or so. And then after that gets going, you can start working on the filling. I'm just going to go ahead and use the same bowl that I just used to mix the nut filling or the nut crust in. I'm going to add 4 ounces of cream cheese, a couple tablespoons of blue cheese crumbles, an egg, and a 1/4 cup of sugar. And this is going to form a very simple, basic cheesecake. You're going to want to whip these together. Start by working the egg first. And just fold it all together till you have one nice, even, smooth, creamy consistency. gonna turn it up here and really get the blending going on. I think you'll really like the way that the blue cheese accents the flavor of this particular little dessert. Adds a little richness to it. You really don't notice the pungency once it's all disguised in the pears, and the walnuts, and the cheesy goodness. Of course, you want to scrape down the sides of your bowl intermittently while you're blending. That looks fantastic right there. I like that there's still a few little lumps of blue cheese in there. That way they hit your sweetie's palate. Kind of surprise him or her as he or she is eating your delicious creation. So with that done, let's move on to the pears. So you're gonna wanna have a saute pan pre-warmed over medium to medium-low heat. Add a little bit of butter. Get it all melted in there. Gotta have the butter because you're making it kind of a quick caramel that it's gonna glaze the pear. Got my pear pre-sliced. I cut it in half and then I cut it in little slices like that. Just gonna give that a light little toss here in the butter. Woo! That one really wants out of the pan. Let's add a couple tablespoons of brown sugar. Get that tossed in there too. Want to give the brown sugar a chance to dissolve in the butter. Let it coat the pears. It's making kind of a sticky creation here, so I'm just going to revert to a spoon. Just give that a couple minutes and then we'll add the brandy in. These are looking lovely. There's a degree of translucency that's developed. They're kind of softening up a little bit. Perfect. And we've got a nice little amount of heat built up in here, which is going to be really important because the next step is to add a little fire into the picture. I'm going to add 3/4 of an ounce of brandy. I'm going to give that a little swirl here so it picks up all the sugars that caramelize the bottom of the pan. I'm going to wait for it to come to a nice full boil. And then we're gonna light it on fire and cook off the alcohol. Get a little swirl, a little agitation. Oh yeah, cook off, baby, cook off. There we go. And then you just wanna put these back in the bowl from whence they came and allow them to cool down. Let's go check on that crust. Gotta have one. Ooh, those are delicious. Don a pair of hot pads here. And pull the magnificent crust from the oven. They've lightly browned, they've firmed up. Oh, they're so beautiful. Now let's pour the filling into them. Yes, you can do this while it's hot. In fact, it's helpful to do so because it helps the cheesecake to set up quickly and properly. Divide it evenly between the two adorable little personal cheesecakes. Make sure you get plenty of those lumps of blue cheese in each one. Scrape out your bowl really well so you get all the batter out of there. Sometimes there can be an ounce or more of batter stuck to the sides of your bowl. Go. And put the hot pads back on because those bowls are still going to be hot, and then back into the oven. At this point, you're going to want to reduce the temperature. Cheesecake is basically a custard, and so it likes to cook at a low temperature. Turn it down to 300 degrees and cook it till it's set all the way through, 20 to 35 minutes. Well, how is dessert doing? It looks like it's doing beautifully to me. I don't see any jiggle here when I shake it. That's always a good sign. For cheesecake, anyway. So I'm just gonna set them aside over here next to their friends, the Brandied pears, to cool down. And in the meantime, get started on these stuffed pork chops. So, in order to make the stuffing for the pork chops, you're going to need 1 pear that has been diced and cored, of course, before you dice it. You're going to need about a ½ ounce of apple cider vinegar, about a teaspoon of sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and about a ½ teaspoon of basil. A couple tablespoons of those chopped walnuts, and a couple tablespoons of delicious blue cheese crumbles, and a little dollop of Dijon mustard, about a tablespoon's worth. And just fold this all together. This makes a nice amount of stuffing. The apple cider vinegar and the sugar work together to enhance the flavor of the pears. The blue cheese offsets all that sweetness with its rich, moldy goodness. And the walnuts add a nice earthy crunch to the mix. Give it a few folds, make sure that Dijon mustard is all incorporated. And then it's time to stuff the chops. So just take the chops, open them up, and shovel the stuffing in there. I'll break down and use my fingers here because they work a little bit better. You can really get in there and feel how tightly you can pack the stuffing. Again, work to distribute it evenly between both of the chops. Make sure you jam it back into the corners there. And then take your stuffed chops, place them in a baking pan. Those look nice. And then take whatever extra stuffing you have and kind of pour it over on top. Kind of shove it back inside. And then, of course, after handling the raw meats, you want to wash your hands. And then this is ready to go in the oven. I'm going to place it down here, the middle to lower portion of the oven. Crank the heat up to about 400 degrees and let them roast for about 35 to 45 minutes. In the meantime, get started on your rice pilaf. So you want to start with a nice pre-warmed saute pan, a couple tablespoons of delicious butter. Get all swirled, loved up, and happy in there. Add some onions to the party, about a couple tablespoons worth of minced onions. Get it all melted in there. Add about a tablespoon of wild rice at this point if you like. Wild rice is a bit more fibrous and it takes a little longer to cook, so it's a good thing to get started early in any pilaf you're making with it. That smells very nice. At this point, I'm also going to add my spicy ingredient, which is about a ½ tablespoon of chili flake, and my salt, about a ½ teaspoon's worth of salt. And just give that a little time to come together. Just want to cook this over low temperature because I don't want the onions to brown. Rather, I just want to sweat them. Because you want this pilaf to feature the delicate flavors of the onions and the garlic all cooked together. Now the next thing to add is the garlic cloves. And again, your temperature is going to be really important on this. So I have 7 cloves of garlic. Some of them are really big, so I'm going to slice them in half really quick. That way they cook evenly, and that way there's more bites of delicious garlic to love in this garlic lover's pilaf. Maybe you're concerned about garlic breath on your date night. Well, here's the thing with that. As long as you both have it, nobody's gonna notice. So garlic up, my friends, garlic up. Keep moving the ingredients around the pan so they cook evenly. so they get all coated and loved up in the butter. And then just kind of spread them out on the bottom of the pan and let them sweat for about 3, 4, 5 minutes or until the cloves of garlic have softened up significantly. Let's see how we are doing here. Does this look yummy? The garlic cloves have definitely softened up a little bit. When I say soften, I mean they just kind of look a little bit more wilty. If you look closely at a couple of these cloves here, you can see that the sections of the clove itself have started to kind of come apart. That's a really good one right there to look at. See how big that gap is? That means that the fibers in the garlic have started to break down, and we're now ready to proceed to the next step. So let's add in a ½ cup of long grain rice. I love jasmine rice. That's my household rice. That's what I recommend you use. And about a ¼ cup of yummy orzo pasta. And then just saute this up in the butter. Allow the butter to coat each and every grain of rice. Give it a couple more minutes here for the pasta to brown up a little bit. Shake it out here, flatten it a little bit, and just let it do its thing here for a couple more minutes. Ooh, yummy. Now I've been periodically moving this around the pan to ensure each and every little orzo pasta has the opportunity to brown up, and this is the result. It's really important with this particular recipe that you don't let these little lovely garlic cloves get burned. You want to enhance the sweetness of the flavor by cooking them low and slow. Add in about 2 cups worth of chicken stock. Water or vegetable stock works just fine too. I happen to really like the chicken stock. You want to bring it up to a boil, cover it with a lid, and then let it simmer until it's done. And now with the pilaf going, I'm actually going to go ahead and get started on the mushroom balsamic butternut squash goodness. A little olive oil warming up in your pan here. You want to move this up to medium-high heat. There we go. I like the way the oil is moving around the pan right there. I'm going to go ahead and add these mushrooms. I've cut them in half. I'm going to place them sliced side down in the pan. Give them a little space here because I want to develop a nice brown side on them. Unlike the garlic, this is definitely something you do want to brown. Swirl, coat them up. That's great. So let those sear off for about 10 minutes. And now with everything else in play, we can come back to the desserts and finish them off. Once they're cool enough to handle with your bare hands, they're cool enough to finish with a garnish of these lovely brandied pears. So just kind of layer them on here in a beautiful fashion. Work until you've got pretty much the whole thing covered. Go ahead and slide that in right there. Before you use up all your full slices, make sure you also garnish the other one and use the little scrap slices to cover up the rest of the cheesecake. These are just going to be sumptuous and buttery and all sorts of right. Tuck that one up under there. Handle them gently because they are delicate after their little cooking and their little fire. These are ready. So the final step for the adorable little cheesecakes are to put them in the fridge and allow them the opportunity to chill down all the way. And as far as your brandied syrup goes, might be a little something you want to save for your morning cup of coffee. Let's take a look at these mushrooms now. So we're about halfway to the color that I want to see. I want to see a nice dark brown. So I'm going to put them back on here. Looks like they've just about soaked up all the oil. Add a little bit more of that. Let them keep doing their thing. Let's take a look at the pork. We need to do a quick little baste here. As you can see that the pears are starting to caramelize and the meat's looking a little dry on top. So give it a little love. Think loving thoughts of your sweetie while you do this. And that will help to make the caramelized flavor of the pears taste caramelized, not burnt. You may want to keep doing that periodically until the pork's done. And back to the mushrooms. Oh, that's beautiful. That's what I'm looking for. Now, just want to give them a little toss here, give them a chance to get all coated. Don't really need to brown the other sides right now. What you do want to do is take them out of the pan. And then start cooking the butternut squash. Butternut squash is a nice hard vegetable and it will take several minutes to cook. So it's totally to your advantage to get them going right now. Let's add some onions to the party, a little bit of fresh chopped rosemary, a little bit more olive oil, and then let's give it a toss. Okay. And same sort of thing here, just let it do its thing for a little bit. Toss it periodically. We'll check back in on it in a few minutes. Look at that, they have done their thing. A little caramelization going on. They've softened up a little bit, perfect. Let's reintroduce the mushrooms. And then a little bit of balsamic vinegar, a little salt, a little pepper, keeping it simple. A little toss here, make sure everything gets all coated. This will be a couple more minutes. In the meantime, let's get the pork chops out of the oven. Don the oven mitts once again. So this baby's hot. Yum! Now this little garnish has done its job. Infused with a little flavor, the top layer it did. So I'm gonna just pull off the burnt little bits. Kicked them to the curb, we don't need them anymore. Gonna need something to put everything on. Just gonna let the pork chops sit here for a couple more minutes. Make sure those juices pull back into the meat before I pull them out of the pan. Come back over here and finish off dinner. Gonna take a little taste here of the pilaf and make sure I've got all the seasonings right. Perfect, buttery, garlicky, delicious. Let's test the doneness of the squash here. It's great. Got a nice texture. Dinner's ready. So I'm just gonna go ahead and plop these on the plate here. Those are fun. Love mushrooms and squash together. So nice. The rice pilaf out here. You want to give it a nice little fluff. Nice little scoop of that on each plate too. Make sure you get all those cloves out of there and on the plate. And then the chops. Use your fingers to stabilize it if you need to. Place it there. Done. And there you go, a delicious romantic dinner to share with your sweetie, complete with all of the flavors of fall. Now pair this up with a nice Pinot Noir or perhaps a Chianti and call on your sweetie. Honey, it's dinner time!
Another delicious date night at home.
Date night at home.
Kitchen. This looks delicious.
Made you a really yummy stuffed pork chop tonight.
My dear.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah. You're gonna like this one.
Absolutely delicious.
Kitchen.
Give me a garlic kiss.
Garlicky kisses.
This is such a hot kitchen.
Kitchen.
So thanks for joining me in my hot kitchen tonight. Have fun turning up the heat in your kitchen. And we'll see you next week. Night night. Pet the kitties.